Destination Medicine is a joint project of the regional training hubs. This podcast series brings you medical students' accounts of their experiences in applying to study medicine.
Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Nicole Goodman. A local emergency ward doctor called her his apprentice. Ashlee Nichol, then a young country girl with big ambitions, had done a first aid course so she could help the medic attending local football games. She'd wanted to be a doctor since early childhood and through high school travelled every day to a bigger town so that she could study the subject she needed to get into medicine. Eventually, she found herself in the big smoke, Adelaide, undertaking her dream degree and expanding her clinical experience through rural placement. It hasn't always been plain sailing, but she has no regrets and is looking forward to launching herself into rural Australia to care for the communities that she loves. Ashlee starts by talking to Jeff Waters about her early desire to become a doctor.
Going through primary school and things like that, I would always say, when I grow up, I wanted to be a doctor. And then when it was time for me to go to high school, I could have gone to the local high school, but I decided I really wanted to go to one of the schools about 45 minutes from my hometown so I could do more subjects and increase the chances of getting into medicine. So I think that's when I really cemented that that's something that I wanted to do.
What was it about being a doctor that attracted you so?
I've just always really enjoyed helping people, and I've had a few health things go on in my life growing up, and I always found it so interesting when I went to the doctors. I'd always ask so many different questions and just be so intrigued by the different things that doctors could do. Also, my little brother played footy for one of the local footy teams, and I kind of became the first aid officer, their little apprentice. He was one of the ED doctors in Bendigo, which is the town 45 minutes from us. And each week I would help him when it was my brother's footy games. And even though I was just doing tiny little things like bandaging up a sore ankle or just small things like that, I always found it so interesting and really loved it. So yeah, that's why I decided I really wanted to go down this pathway.
And did your GP know about your ambitions? What did they think?
Yeah, so my local GP at home, she knew that I wanted to be a doctor and she was very supportive of it. Being from a little country town, you always want more doctors. So yeah, she was really supportive. And then the ED doctor that was my brother's first aid officer, he was also super supportive and always said that I would be able to do it if I put my mind to it. And here I am now, which is awesome.
He must be very proud of you after being his apprentice.
Yeah. Each time I go home, I see the local doctors. They come into the fruit shop that I work at over summer, and they always ask how I'm going and always are super proud of what I've been doing, which is really nice.
So you were growing up and living in Castlemaine in regional Victoria, but travelling 45 minutes every day to go to school in Bendigo. I understand you had a mishap just before your HSC exam. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so in Victoria, it's actually our VCE exam. I broke my wrist 4 weeks before exams, which for me, I thought my life was over. I'd been working so hard throughout the whole of Year 11 and Year 12 to try and optimise my grades, and then breaking my left wrist and I'm left-handed coming into exams, I was very, very stressed.
Oh dear.
Luckily for myself, by working with the school and the VCE people, I was able to get special consideration. I still had to sit my exams and I tried to write right-handed, which wasn't very neat writing, and I didn't finish a couple of the exams just because I was a lot slower writing like that. But I still got through.
And you got into medicine?
Yeah, so my first results came through early on the morning of results day. I was actually on a family holiday on the Gold Coast at that time. So with the time difference, it actually came through at like 5 a.m. And I got my results and they were still really good, but I knew that it would be pushing it to get into medicine, so I was super upset by that. I remember walking down to the beach that morning and I was just crying on the beach. My sister came down to see what was going on, and I told her that I'm never going to get into medicine. I'm just going to be working at McDonald's for the rest of my life. So I was a bit of a drama queen that day, but I knew that medicine was something that I really wanted, and after trying so hard, I was a bit upset that I thought that wouldn't be possible.
But it all worked out in the end.
Yes, about an hour later, I then got another text message with updated results after they'd taken into consideration my wrist, and I had a score that should have got me into med.
What a roller coaster while you're on holidays on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, yes, it was a bit of a roller coaster. My family still bring up that story of me being quite upset and then quite excited. I didn't get any first round offers into medicine. I think that's once again because of the result issue. But I applied literally everywhere. I applied in Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, because I knew that medicine is what I wanted to do, and I didn't really mind where I did it as long as I could do it.
So how did you go from country Victoria to the University of Adelaide?
Yeah, so second round offers came out for medicine, and I remember, I think it was the Australia Day public holiday actually, my dad and I drove over to Adelaide. I'd never been to Adelaide before. I went in, my interview was at 9 a.m. or something like that, and then we just got in the car and drove straight back to home. I thought that I interviewed all right, but I didn't really know how I'd gone. And then on my 18th birthday, I was just sitting at home waiting for my parents to come home from work so we could go out for a birthday dinner. And I got an email from SATAC, which is the university people in SA, with an offer for medicine, which was the best 18th birthday present anyone could ever get. So I didn't tell anyone. I waited until we went out for our family dinner, and then I just passed my phone around with the email, and all my family was pretty excited, which was very nice.
What a great story. Now, prior to all of this, you had to sit the UMAT, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Yes, when I was trying to get into medicine, it was the UMAT. I think it's now the UCAT, so it's changed a little bit. But to do the UMAT, you have to register your interest a couple of months prior to it. And I always knew that I wanted to do med, but I didn't really exactly know the process of going about it. And I'd heard of this medical test that you had to do at some point, but I hadn't really looked into it. No one else that I really knew was applying for med, so it was just one night I woke up at about 11 at night and I was like, I swear I've got to do this test sometime soon. And it turned out that I had to register for the UMAT by midnight of that night, which was insane. I woke my mum up and she wasn't that happy to be woken up, but we registered and I was able to do the UMAT. Otherwise, I would have had to wait another 12 months to be able to get into med. So
your subconscious knew.
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy time. But yeah, somehow everything's just fallen into place, which is awesome.
Now, you took a gap year after your acceptance and before you commenced your studies. What did you do during that year?
Yeah, so I had been working at the local fruit shop in Castlemaine since I was old enough to work, basically. And the owner of the fruit shop offered for me to start working there full time. So I worked there and also our cafe that's next door to the fruit shop for most of that year. And then I went overseas with my family for a couple of weeks as well. And also throughout that year, I did a couple of trips to Adelaide to just check it all out and see what I would be getting myself in for the year after. So I think the gap year was definitely a really good choice. I was able to save some money and just get some more life skills behind me before starting med.
So tell us about your first year of studying medicine in Adelaide. What was it like?
I moved to Adelaide knowing absolutely no one. So because of that, I decided to go to one of the colleges. So I went to St. Mark's College in North Adelaide, which is where a lot of the rural kids go, just so that you're with people that have also moved out of home and don't really know anyone. I really struggled in my first year, actually. I was very shy and introverted, and I was quite a homebody. So being 8 hours from home was quite hard. My grandpa was also quite unwell during my first year, so I was travelling back and forth from Adelaide to home quite a bit, trying to spend some time with him. He actually ended up passing away in October of that year, so in the end I repeated first year. And after not enjoying it the first time, I made a really conscious effort to try and meet new people and make some more friends and get the most out of medicine by doing everything I could apply for. And I had a much better time in my second round of first year and absolutely loved it.
So you're now in your 5th year of medicine and just about to finish your year-long rural placement in Broken Hill. Is rural where you want to be?
Yes, definitely. I think growing up in the country, I've always wanted to go back to the country, but since being in Broken Hill, I've really enjoyed my GP rotations out at Clive Bishop Medical Centre with the Royal Flying Doctors. Throughout medical school, I've enjoyed all of it, but I've never really found something super specific that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. Like, I've always enjoyed kind of a little bit of everything, and doing the GP placement this year has kind of shown me that you can do a bit of everything throughout GP, and it's reinforced that doing the rural generalist program is something that I think I would benefit from and would allow me to work in rural Australia in the future.
What is it about rural Australia that attracts you?
I think the variety of medicine is greater. The people in general are a lot more easygoing and a lot more understanding. I think that's the doctors, the patient and nursing staff. And I also just think the lifestyle in the country is a lot better. You can get to work within 5 or 10 minutes and there's not a whole lot of traffic and things like that. So that's what appeals to me.
No traffic jams in Broken Hill?
No.
As well as studying medicine yourself, you're very passionate about promoting it as a career choice for other young people as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I just think it's really important that young people know that they can do medicine. It doesn't really matter what your background is or if your parents are doctors or anything like that. I think if you want to help people and health interests you, then I really think that you should give medicine a go, or if it's not medicine, a different health profession. I think a lot of people just feel that because they're from the country, they can't do it because quite often you have to move a long way from home to be able to do your degree, and it is quite a long degree, but I think there's lots of different pathways and a lot of different scholarships and things like that that can get you there. And I firmly believe that rural people know firsthand what it's like to be a rural doctor or work in a rural area, whether it's from travelling to appointments or having hospital stays or getting transferred to bigger centres. I just think it's so important that kids know that no matter what their circumstances are, there is a way to be able to do their dream.
Ashlee, would you say that studying medicine has changed you in any way?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I mentioned before, when I moved to Adelaide, I was quite a shy and introverted person, and I think both doing medicine and moving to Adelaide has been such a massive improvement for myself. I really changed my mindset to be a lot more positive, and I've not only learnt the skills to be a doctor now, but it's really grown and shaped me as a person. And yeah, it was very daunting at the start, and I didn't love my first year out of home, but now looking back at it, I think moving to Adelaide and studying medicine over there was one of my best life choices.
And just finally, for those listening to this episode who are thinking about studying medicine, what piece of advice would you give them?
I think, as I briefly mentioned before, you can do it. Anyone can do it, irrelevant of money, where you come from, how smart you are. Like, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I think another piece of advice would be just take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. I've had some of the coolest experiences throughout my degree, and they weren't hard to get into. You just have to apply for them. So in my first year, I did a one-day placement with the Royal Flying Doctors Service, which was really cool. In my second year, I spent a weekend in Corn in rural SA with the only doctor that works there. and we did quite a few different sessions with him, both to do with medicine but also living a rural kind of lifestyle, and that was one of the best weekends ever. I also managed to get a John Flynn placement scholarship, which meant I was meant to spend 8 weeks in Toowoomba in Queensland doing rural medicine. Unfortunately, COVID meant that I only got to do 4 weeks, and I did the other 4 weeks in Mount Gambier. But that was another opportunity that in my preclinical years I was able to do so many hands-on things, and that was just from taking advantage of the opportunities that were offered to us. And then now, like, I'm living in Broken Hill. I've been here for the last 9.5 months, have seen and done some of the coolest things out here, and once again, it's just from taking those opportunities.
That was Ashlee Nichol, fifth-year medical student at the University of Adelaide, now on placement in Broken Hill. We trust you've enjoyed this episode of Destination Medicine, a joint project of the regional training hubs. The hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.